Hi, you are again welcome CoLearning, a webinar series organized initiated by Shobhit University. Today we have Professor P.K. Ahluwalia. Professor P.K. Ahluwalia is renowned academician, a scientist at par excellence, an extraordinary creator who has worked in various capacities, including former director IQAC HP University, Member Advisory Committee HPPERC. He is very well acquainted with accreditation process. So, welcome Professor Ahluwalia. You are welcome to the new series of Shobhit University.
Thank you, Manishji. I'm very happy to be part of this program.
Thank you so much, sir. I am starting your presentation. You can present. You can present your presentation first, and after that we will discuss. We will take question from our audience.
Okay, fine. Let us begin.
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
So, hello, good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be part of this a series of seminars on quality. And I hope you are able to see my PowerPoint on the screen. The title of my talk is From Quality Assurance to Quality Enhancement, a Transformation Perspective. At the outset, I would like to thank Shobhit University, particularly the Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Ranjit Singh, who contacted me to be part of this particular program. And I think you will see something which has been a very practical experience with me in my university in this particular presentation. There are not very many slides, but there are very many ideas which I will share with you. And I am really underlining the two words in the title. One is the assurance and other is the enhancement. Manishji, next, please. So let us try to see where are we today. I think with the coming of COVID on the scene, we are in very, very challenging times. There is no activity on earth which has not been impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And about 6 months back, we had never thought of such a calamity striking us. Everything came to stand still, and we were at a loss what to do. And it looked as if our system has shut down. And maybe after about 4 months of lockdown and unlockdown now, it is time to reboot. And everybody sitting in the system, and if I am particularly pointing towards education system, is trying to see whether we were really ready for such a thing or not. Did we have some kind of a resilience in the system to handle such an eventuality? And what we did was we looked for some kind of short-term responses, and then that made us think about long-term strategies also. And time and again, the Q factor was coming in front of us. And this Q factor is the quality factor which we are talking about today. And it has also given us, a lot of time to introspect, to evaluate, to see at our resources, both physical and extra physical resources which are there. Extra physical, I mean to say the kind of resource through which I am interacting with you. And time and again, we were trying to see whether our quality of the system has been good enough to cope up with this kind of a situation or not. Now, let me just come to another viewpoint which is there whenever equality is talked about in the context of a higher educational institution. I think in the last 5, 6, 7 years, rather 10 years, I would put it like that, the things have been changing. There has been a lot of emphasis on accreditation, on ranking of the institutions, and people are not very much satisfied with the kind of accreditation grades they are getting, the kind of rankings they are achieving in national institutional ranking framework. So it is high time we start thinking about it lagging. And that actually brings us what is the difference between quality assurance and quality enhancement. And also, making us ponder over the fact, is quality DNA of the system or not in which we are operating? Let me just talk about the word quality itself. Quality as such is a very amorphous term. Whenever somebody talks about quality, quality may mean something to somebody, and it is very, very much contextual. I may go to the market when I want to buy something, and people say, okay, I want to have a good quality product. Quality is good or not. And people may assure you by telling you something about the product which you are actually interested in buying. Let me take a very mundane kind of an example of buying, say, vegetable in the market. Or maybe you look at buying a brinjal, and the uh, vegetable wala, will pick up a brinjal, will try to put a small polishing effect on it with the help of his duster and show you that, sir, it is really shining and it's a product of very good quality. Or he may apply some kind of a trick to present the object which you are interested in buying. He may offer you two kinds of things for that particular object itself in terms of its cost. One may be of lower cost and other may be of higher cost. If you do some kind of a visual inspection, you will find that they look alike, but somehow or the other, your subconscious mind tells you that there is something which must be good in the higher cost of the object. And maybe you take a momentary decision and go ahead and buy that. This is how we actually try to go about quality. And therefore, you can very easily see that we are confused even in a very simple situation to decide about the quality of something. And that is what is very crucial to appreciate, that when we are talking of quality, the context and the way it is being put before the client makes a lot of difference in taking a decision itself. To put it very briefly, that quality is nothing in itself. As I said, it is very amorphous. But if you carefully look at it, you will find that quality has to be something. You can ask, sitting in a higher education institution, that what is the meaning of quality of that higher education institution? And you will say, look, when I look at that institution, there are some things which I can identify and which tell me that this institution has got very good quality. These days, whenever anybody is talking about the quality of an institution, people are tagging a very interesting parameter with it. And what is that interesting parameter with it? They will say, we can have faith in the quality of this institution if its product, the students, are employable in the market. And time and again, we hear this kind of a situation around in the environment, that not more than, say, 20-25% students who come out of higher education institutions are employable. So, we have to really be very careful in looking at the scenario which is there around us, in appreciating what do we mean by the quality itself. And we need to really see ultimately that this term quality, which is called something, on its own it is nothing, has identifiable parameters in it or not. And if I can have a list of such parameters, then I can say, okay, all right, I think in the context of this particular institute, when we talk of the quality is in the DNA of the system itself. And if I make this kind of a statement, I think I need to really go deeper into the things and see whether that DNA is identifiable and what are the features of that DNA which we should keep in mind. Next, Manishi. So this is where we are actually looking at. So as I said in the title of the talk itself, that we must be very clear about the two terms which we are using time and again here. Very often we hear about quality assurance, but it is very rarely that we hear about quality enhancement. When I say get a grade, suppose I am B grade institute, we are not very happy with that grade. But somebody says, okay, your quality is assured to the extent of this grade B. And you are immediately, set into some kind of a thinking process. Okay, that if I have to go from this B grade to A grade, then how can I achieve this kind of a quality enhancement? Please do remember that quality is a continuous process which has to be there in the system if you have to have some standing in the minds of the stakeholders itself. Professor Mans Yoke, who is an authority in quality enhancement in higher education, has made a very interesting difference between these two terms, quality assurance and quality enhancement itself. For example, he says, whenever we talk of quality assurance, it reflects external interests and requirements. For example, when we are getting accredited, somebody comes from outside to look at us, to evaluate us, and tell us that you stand here. Whereas when we are talking of quality enhancement, it actually reflects internal interests and values. So there is a huge difference between the two situations. And you can see the kind of change in emphasis which is there in going from quality assurance to quality enhancement itself. When we talk of quality assurance, it depends on inspection. Though we also try to create some kind of a document called self-assessment report. So somebody tries to have a look at that self-assessment report. After that, the team comes and inspects us and gets some kind of a grade to us. Whereas when we are talking of quality enhancement within the institution, actually, we are looking at the evaluation, the way we do of the kinds of processes which are operating in the system around us. Many a times, you will find that people get some kind of certifications, ISO certification, etc., to impress people that this is where we stand. But ultimately, when you do go about those kinds of certifications, actually what you try to do is you try to define some certain kinds of processes which you need to put in place to be up to the mark. Otherwise, that kind of a certification document in which processes get defined will remain a document on some remote shelf of the head of the institution or somewhere else. The next thing, which is very, very much fundamental to quality assurance, is it involves extrinsic motivation. That somebody, from outside, if he or she or an agency will put a stamp on us, I think that will be treated more authentic when people are talking about our quality. And people will feel that because it has been certified by so and so agency, so you can be assured of the kind of quality which is there in terms of the grade which you are actually getting. Whereas quality enhancement actually involves what is known as intrinsic motivation. That is, there is some kind of from within the system, and the people who are part of that system, including the management, the faculty, the student, the other support staff, they all together, are highly motivated within themselves without bothering about whether an inspector is going to come to us and evaluate us or not. But they are very much, alive to this fact. They are highly motivated to this situation that they want to have a good quality. And as a result of this, what they do is something very interesting. They don't really focus on the results, rather they focus on what we call actions. They plan actions. And they don't look forward to that these results are the most important. The moment the actions come into force, you find that they will reflect on the results itself automatically. But this is an intrinsic motivation on the part of the institution itself. Now, as far as quality assurance is concerned, it focuses on the information which you provide. And you ask any director or coordinator of the internal quality assurance cell, he or she will always say that, oh, there is such a huge data which keeps on coming, which needs to be, properly looked at so that we may provide the right kind of information to the inspectors who are going to come from outside. Whereas when we come to quality enhancement, it always centers on learning, which is the ultimate thing which we want in our system. If I have that outside polish, the kind of polish which I mentioned in the case of brinjal, which we are going to buy, say, in the market, that doesn't really mean much. We have to really go within and see whether the students who have come to us are learning things properly or not. It is centering on learning. It's again a very, very well, thought out thing. Today, if you try to ask anybody, what is the most important thing on which we should focus in our educational institutions? People are saying we have to always look at it from the point of view of the learner. It has to be learner centric and not otherwise. And people are defining so many things around this situation itself. They try to create some kind of, what we call learning objectives or learning outcomes. Government of India is also, trying to focus a lot on that. And we are trying to, create these kinds of, documents around the delivery system itself. So please be careful about when we are talking about quality assurance, we are actually trying to do it from the point of view of inspectors or the stakeholders who are sitting outside the system and they do not know within what is there within the system as such. Whereas when we are talking about quality enhancement, we are definitely worried about when the inspectors are going to come, but we are not scared about it when we focus on the enhancement part of the quality itself. And once again, you will find if you are focusing on quality enhancement, quality assurance will automatically be there. Munishi, next one, please. So let's go to the next aspect. And let us try to have a look at the process of quality assurance. I think many of you who are participating in this webinar, they will be realizing that now almost every educational institution has got a cell which is known as internal quality assurance cell. Its constitution is also very well defined. NAC has given us a kind of a way how to constitute this quality assurance cell. But I have a very different what NAC says. We will find that of normally very senior members of the faculty, and is very particularly the young campus, they are not very close to this kind of a cell. Most of the time focus is on gathering data, gathering numbers rather. And once systematically and trying to put these numbers into some kind of reports, for example, some kind of an annual report which you have to send to the NAC as per their mandatory requirement. And as you go through, you find that the numbers which are enough showcase no quality of the system itself. Unfortunately, this gathering of data in the last year of the recycling of that accreditation process, which has to be taken care of. And by the time 6 months remain, we are very into that, and we start preparing self-assessment reports, etc., for to be posted for the action itself. And once we, after trying to answer all those are there, sometimes we may not have done anything which is corresponding to those kinds of. We hope for the best, and we wait to come. And we sometimes don't feel satisfied also the way they give us the reading itself. Though the process is quite transparent, where they try to all sorts of stakeholders with the higher education itself. And this is quite a hectic exercise. And we try to prepare for it near to that inspection in a very, very hectic way, so that we may present the best of the institution before the inspectors itself. Next, Munishji. So, as far as process of quality assurance, I'll give you another perspective about it. When we try to look at this process of quality enhancement itself, the first thing is that it has to be a very, very continuous process. It is not a process which you start 6 months or 8 months or a year ahead of the inspection itself. In this, what you try to do is you look at what you do and document it. And that means that it is something beyond statistics or the numbers which you actually try to get from these, say, departments of the institution itself. Once you have and you have documented it, you start asking yourself, how can you do it better? And once you ask this question, actually, you are actually asking for an improvement into the system. So asking question itself is very crucial. We are looking for improvement. Once we have identified that we want to improve upon it, we also say, okay, what are the possible ways to improve? We ask, are there different ways of doing the same task? So what we are actually doing is looking for alternative approaches itself. And then we don't just leave it there. We ask, can we do it differently and better? And that is what is the transformation which is desirable. So once we go through these four mantras of quality enhancement, things start falling in place. Manishi, next one. So what is the fundamental, picture which is the picture is that this process clarifies purposes and also brings out the responsibilities to be taken up or given to people. It also focuses on tasks, methods, and standards. So, start working on all these things in a very hurried manner. And if you try to go on the websites of various accreditation agencies, and I'll talk about NAC in particular, you will find there are lots of manuals given there. And what is a manual actually? A manual is a document which helps you to bring an action into picture. And there are wonderful case studies which have been presented in those manuals, which you implement in your institution itself. And if you systematically try to follow, you are able to identify that, okay, these are the tasks on which I need to focus. These are the methods which I can employ. The tools, methods can be, of any kind. There can be IT tools. You may also try to look at the kind of standards which are needed. And ultimately also try to focus on, while undertaking this task, who are the clients and the stakeholders, and are getting appropriately attended to in performing these tasks or not. My focus will be, say, the students at one hand, maybe the people outside the system who are going to really employ these students. Maybe I would like to really focus on that. And this process will help us in critical self-evaluation. I'm not talking about, writing of what you call a self-assessment report, but a critical self-evaluation. It brings imagination, it brings commitment, it brings initiatives. Let me just tell you, when I took over as the Director of Internal Quality Assurance Cell, in the last 3-4 years, there was no activity. And the first thing which I realized was that, I have really what you call generate those annual quality assurance reports also, which were to be sent. And you can very well imagine the kind of situation in which I must have been at that point of time. I'm talking about 2009, 2010, when it was almost, nobody was worrying about whether we have to, because cycle was still far away. And I started doing that exercise, but I found that, this is an exercise which I cannot really do on my own. The more normal mode is that I send a kind of an email or a letter to the people around in the campus to provide me that kind of information. And this is ending there itself. So it was a very frustrating kind of an experience, that you want to have a better grade for the university, but I am not really getting the right kind of information and process it so that I may know that where do I stand. I had, to begin with, no way of critical self-evaluation available in the system itself, though internal quality assurance cell with those senior members was in place. So please don't forget here. Maybe things are improving steadily, but this is precisely what is actually happening, to begin with. So you have to bring imagination, you have to bring commitment, you have to bring some kind of an initiative. And that is the most crucial paradigm shift which you need to bring into the system itself. That you are not going to really work the way people have worked before you. You have to be more imaginative, you have to show more commitment, and you have to bring more initiative into the whole task of quality assurance and quality enhancement itself. Manishi, next please. So when we start looking at this, I came across this wonderful statement which has been given by a former director of Higher Education Quality Council of United Kingdom, Robin Middlehurst. She is talking about ideas. There has to be idea generation into the system itself. Ideas new, ideas original, ideas reinvented and co-created. And she says these are the lifeblood of higher education itself. Who generates these? And see, under the fact that these are generated through individual and collective creativity. It's very important to underline the word collective creativity. Quality is not one man's job into the system. Quality is a collective responsibility. It has to be individuals, coming forward as leaders in the system, not one leader, but many leaders together, who, unroll this process of creativity into the system itself. That how we are really going to make sure that we provide the best of the quality to our clients and the stakeholders. And I think these are very interesting. Reinvented, new, original, co-created, and you will suddenly see that things will start moving into the system, provided you bring more people into the fold itself. Manishi, next, please. Now, as I was talking about internal quality assurance cell itself, transforming internal quality assurance cell itself is the first step to quality enhancement. It has to change from data collection and sorting center to a think tank of the university. I believe that internal quality assurance cell is a place where anybody can throw an idea on which a lot of done and new ideas can be presented to the stakeholders and the management with one very important underlining principle, that quality is not one person's business, that is of the director internal quality assurance cell, but it is everybody's business. So if it is everybody's business, means that everybody must come forward to participate in this particular task, which is not a task to be performed in 6 months or 8 months or 1 year, but which has to be a continuous process itself. So the transformation actually comes from the internal quality assurance cell itself. So there was a mandatory, requirement to make it, and there were those members who were there. What I proposed to the Honorable Vice Chancellor at that point of time in our university, that I would like to really have more people into it. And more people actually means that we need to bring young blood into the system itself. So from, say, 12 to 13, 14 people to, I expanded it to about 30, 35 people with some young blood into the internal quality assurance cell itself. And the first task which was done was to go ahead with what we termed as the creative and critical evaluation of where we stood. And where did we stand? We actually stood with a particular grade around us. So we looked at how we were given this particular kind of a grade. So fortunately, the accreditation agencies always provide you a very comprehensive report on the various, points over which you are being accredited. Those 7 points of the neck also. We looked at each and everything very critically. Been initiated till date. And we have to really work the things which we need to do. And suddenly we think there is already a document available where they are asking us to do various things. And can we really something about that itself or not? There were lots of, ideas which they had given us about the kind of learner-centric approach which can be followed to get better grades itself. In terms of research also, they had very many suggestions. There was a feeling that, say, people in the science subjects are doing better as compared to the people in the social sciences or in other streams. And we need to really look at all these things, not as that we are trying to, say that they are not doing well, but to say how we can really improve upon the things as they stand today itself. So some slowly and steadily, what we tried was, we tried to make this quality a business of everybody itself. And I think that was, Manishji, the next one. Now, I will focus on 2, 3, 4 things which we really looked at and which was a wonderful, experience to go ahead with. I figured out, in my earlier part of the lecture that we were sitting in the year 2010-11. And suddenly, there was a talk of Rashtriya Uttar Shiksha Abhiyan at that point of time. University was very much interested in that. Government was also very much interested in that. Government was looking at that document of Rashtriya Uttar Shiksha Abhiyan as a document which can fetch them grants for improving the infrastructure in the universities. And that actually required, on a mandatory basis, some reforms which needed to be introduced into the system. And one reform which was indicated report, and which was also part of the RUSA document, was the introduction of choice-based credit system into the system. Now, when you talk about a choice-based credit system, and if you have to, go beyond the traditional legacy system of annual examinations, etc., it required a huge effort and task to frame syllabi. And here was an opportunity to design a set of syllabi for various courses with reforms in learning quality, learning outcomes, and assessment itself. Normally, how do we design syllabi? This is basically the task which is performed by the board of studies in the system. And once again, this board of studies business has got a very interesting structure. Normally, very senior people are into that, senior professors of that particular subject from the college system as well as from the university departments. They together make that board of studies. And it is only after, the passage of the syllabi by this body that people start looking at what the document which has been really thrust upon us. And we wanted to actually make a kind of a change to this kind of process. And what was the change which was desirable? This change was needed because of certain other reasons also. There was a time constraint, and we wanted that we should try to get best out of this opportunity. So we said we are not really just going to draft syllabus sitting in the board of studies. Maybe a draft is presented by the chairperson of the board of studies, who usually happens to be the head of the department. We said we are going to follow a 3-tier process, and we want to involve the stakeholders into it. So what we did was we said, okay, let us make a small team of 10 people for each subject. In our university, say, let me give you an example of undergraduate. There are 40 subjects. So we, made team of for each subject. So we involved 40 people immediately. And please drafters see what their draft comes out. And we gave them in terms of the regulations that this is what we would like in terms of the number of for a particular course, whether it is going to be a 3-credit course or a 4-credit course, how many 4-credit courses are needed, how many 3-credit courses are needed, how many 1-credit courses are needed, how many are the courses which will provide better, opportunities to our students to get employment when they go out of the portals of the institution itself. So now you can very easily see the numbers. Almost 400 people were involved into it. Then what we did was we said, we are not going to really immediately go to the board of studies. We will have another process here in which what we will do is we will invite about 35 people of each subject who are basically experts in that particular field to have a look at this draft syllabus itself and make certain recommendations. Those recommendations, the first is incorporate these recommendations, and then we will go to the board of studies. Now try to see what is happening. 30 people are now involved into this particular exercise itself. 1200 plus 400 means 1600 people. And then you go to board of studies, and typically if it is of 10 people, 10 members in the board of studies, you will again find another 400 people add to it. But during this day, in those group meetings, drafting group meetings, the syllabus draft of each paper was looked made people get very many ideas about what must be brought new into the system, what must be abandoned, what are the requirements which are needed. And it also made us think about one fact, that if we introduce this kind of a system, what will be the kind of requirement for the system to succeed itself. In fact, we had not much time. We would have gone ahead after we had drafted and completed this process of getting a syllabus document to go into another workshop. And that was to look at each paper and define for each paper broad learning objectives, and for each unit or subunit the learning outcomes. I think that will make it a complete exercise. Now try to look at what you must have been observing and hearing around. And what was that? UGC drafted syllabi later. We did it in 12-13. There was no such draft syllabus available at the end of the University Grants Commission. We were to do it on our own itself. And then once it was there, till date, we are looking forward to the drafting of those learning outcomes itself. Unfortunately, there are majority of institutions who are part of this affiliating system. And they do not have much autonomy the way, say, Shobhit University has got to look at this. And I would say, if Shobhit University has to really go into this kind of a process, they can do a very well, oriented job of creating a world-class document which is learner-centering with well-defined learning outcomes, with clear-cut ideas about assessment. Now, why this syllabus is very crucial and why these kinds of things we need to keep in mind. I think this is a document which goes in very many hands. It goes in the hands of the students, it goes in the hands of the teachers, it goes in the hands of the examiners. And they try to look at this. If it is not properly drafted with the kind of learning outcomes which we talk about, everybody will, make out its own meaning out of it. And that situation we really don't want to have. Now, for example, COVID disruptions which it has caused, the largest pressure actually came on the educational institutions, that how to really keep the process of learning continuous with the students. Now we were finding there is a situation where we have to shift classroom to the homes of the students. We have to shift the podium of the teacher to the home of the teacher itself. And we find that we were not ready with the thing. Are we ready for that kind of a situation or not? And we have, very many what you call labels of availability of these kinds of resources also. This is again very crucial, which we must keep in mind. So sometimes, people find that, oh, what to do in such a situation? I can't really sit down tonight itself and think of making a PowerPoint presentation and start, students immediately. No, we had a very interesting brainstorming session, which I would like to share with you as far as this disruptive situation was concerned. People were saying we do not have resources, what to do. So we said, all right, let us brainstorm over it and let us try to create maybe a 3-4 point out of this syllabus which is available to us. So it was actually nothing but a table of 7 columns. First column was the serial number. Second was subunit and units of the syllabus. Third column was the learning outcomes. The fourth column was some kind of e-text which is available to us in the system, say, maybe my own. Then I had next column in which we provided some kind of a link to the video resources which are available on the YouTube or maybe in various portals which have been created in the last about 6, 7, 8 years or 10 years around us. Like, for example, PG Pathshala, EPG Pathshala, EUG Pathshala, or at the school level, just PG Pathshala itself. So there were lots of such videos available which can be linked to the syllabus itself. After that, we can even add another column in which we can put what we call assessment. Assessment means I can provide a Google form link there. After teaching that particular unit, I can tell students to go over to that Google form in which I have incorporated, say, some multiple choice questions, say true false questions, some short objective questions to, assess them. Assessment process also starts. This is what continuous assessment actually means. And last of all, when I have to give them some kind of a task to perform and submit something written on a piece of paper, I will create some kind of rubric for that how I can handle it. Now come to the science subjects, for example. Science subjects are not, taught in vacuum. They are always linked with the labs. Can we really reach out to students and help them do the labs also? That was a very big question. And if you go around, as I was talking about the kinds of resources which are available around us, there are lots of virtual labs available in physics, chemistry, biology, right from school level to PG level. Under NPTEL program, it is there. For example, your computer skills, you have spoken tutorials of IIT Bombay which are available to you. You have lots of other things which are happening, which are basically using these resources itself to create courses for you. And suddenly what we find is once this kind of a document is there, I think I can schedule this document and I can really start, delivering content to the students. Ask them, go through the e-text, go through the video, and make use of this kind of an environment in which I am sitting right now for what we call flipping the classroom. So you come on, are able to see that your student, tasks of going through e-text and watching the video, can you really generate some kind of a discussion in this kind of a new environment or not? Now, these are the things, which are there, which we need to think of, not only in a situation the way we have faced it, otherwise also, so that we are ready to face all kinds of situations in which we may find ourselves, we may find our clients also. Munishji, next one, please. So this was one enhancement exercise which I wanted to talk about. Now I will, point towards something very crucial, which was put into place when we were working quality enhancement in our university itself. And that is the idea of the feedback. Feedback is the fuel for enhancing quality. Sometimes when we talk about feedback, it is in a very broad sense, teacher evaluation itself. I'm not just talking about teacher evaluation. I'm talking much more than that. When I said, if you recall those 4 mantras about which I made a mention, how do we identify the areas where improvement is needed? One way was that inspectors came and told us that, okay, please improve upon these things. But the other way is a structured feedback from the stakeholders and clients who are operating in the system, so that we can very critically identify the areas of improvement and establish a kind of a culture of having a feedback. It can be a feedback in the form of a structured form, say kind of a Google form. It can be an open feedback also. Maybe you are sitting in a seminar and you invite clients and stakeholders there. Maybe in the form of interviews also. It can be that. And once you do this exercise, you know whether enhancement is actually happening or not also. Now, one of the key areas in every education institution which acts like a pivot is the library. And I think library can give you lots of feedback once you start, going to with this kind of an approach in looking at what is happening in the library itself. We did it, and we made a very comprehensive performer for identifying the activities and the way our library works and the way the clients or the students perceive the library. And we got a feedback from about 500 students out of about 6,000 students studying in the university, and that was an eye-opener in many ways. Our library, you visit Himachal Pradesh University library. Unfortunately, it is shut these days. You will always find it is packed with students. And sometimes we do not know what do the students actually do there. And this performer actually helped us to identify what do students do. Most of the times we must be thinking that they are busy, preparing for the courses in which they have sought admission. And the answer was entirely different. It turned out to be different. We were also, thinking that how resources are being given to the students. For example, as mundane a resource as Xeroxing facility, how it is being given, whether the price for Xeroxing one page is approved price or not. And it was an eye-opener to look at what was the response which was coming back. So you must really believe in this structure feedback, a feedback through open formats like seminars. For example, we very strongly felt that we should prepare a student charter for the university. And we formed a committee of young enthusiastic colleagues with one senior person to chair that committee, and they started working on it. They took about 6-7 months to draft that student charter, and it really took good shape. And you can visit our university's website and maybe you will find student charter there. Once we had drafted it, we said, okay, look, we as maybe teachers, etc., we have really given a lot of thought of it, but in real sense, this document is a very empowering document which we are actually preparing. If it is an empowering document, what does it mean? It means that we are bringing transparency into the system, and we are telling our students that what they can expect from us and what we would like to expect from them. So we went on ahead with a conduct of a seminar for looking at the draft student charter. And we invited, students from the student associations, student bodies which are operating in the campus. And we had not yet, the seminar that one of the students got up and said, you are not making a student charter. You are actually trying to, what you call put some kind of constraints on the students' freedom of learning itself. I know, at the very beginning when your seminar is to start, somebody stands up and starts saying it. we try to tell them, look at the numbers itself, that there are two parts in it: universities' responsibilities and the students' responsibilities. Universities' responsibility are much more in number as compared to the students' responsibilities. I think that should make you confident enough to see that university is really committing to the student charter. And in fact, we had to tell them itself that this student charter actually means Vidyarthiyon ka Adhikar Patra. So if you understand this particular, that what this document means and what is its importance in enhancement of quality in the system itself, because we are committing as an institution towards certain things. And when we are committing, that students will also commit themselves to certain things, which is value based, which is student centric, which is learning, all such elements in that particular student charter itself. And I think we, that group did a work exercise bringing out a particular document, and it's hearing that kind of a student charter itself. So I very strongly suggest that if you are looking for enhancement, then you should use this feedback as a fuel for enhancing the quality itself. Now, I'll just very briefly point out that we also did an exercise to draft the teacher evaluation performer of the university. And before that, what we did was we went ahead and we went to various, websites of the institutions and tried to look at how this has, many a time it is just 4 or 5 points which are written there. Sometimes we do not know that what we are asking our students, what the kind of feedback is to be got from them. There was no structure, available into that feedback itself in terms of teacher's role. I mean, in terms of the various things which are available for the students' learning. And again, we worked out, came out with a document with well-defined, what you call subsets in it, leading to, say, this kind of a quality of a teacher, this kind of a quality of a teacher, this kind of quality of teacher. Now, when we did this, this time it was the teacher body who, when it was put before them, who said, you see, this is something which will never be fair. People had apprehensions in their minds because students can evaluate us in whatever way they want. You know that if a performer is properly designed and validated, you will find that happening of such things become less and less. And when we actually put a preamble to this performer, we said that this is not to, punish the teacher, but it is to help teacher know what are in which improvement is needed as far as the student-teacher interaction in the classroom or the labs is concerned. So this was another very interesting way of, going ahead and finding that element. Where do we need improvement itself? Next. This is the last slide, with which I will end my lecture. And I think I have almost completed an hour talking with you. The underlining thing is this, that if you are able to create a culture in which everybody starts feeling that he or she has to contribute, things start moving. And I think that is the biggest challenge which is there. How you can make people part of this quality business. And with all the constraints, all the shortcomings which may be there at our end, if we are willing to do something for enhancement of the quality, I think things will start moving. And this reminds me of a Swedish proverb. It says, those who want to sing always find a song. And I leave this as a thought to ponder upon to the august audience who is listening to this particular webinar. Manishi, next one. And I would like to wish you a very happy quality enhancement future in our educational institutions, in your classrooms, in your surroundings. Quality is, please remember, it's very misunderstood word. Quality itself is nothing. It is the stakeholders who actually make the quality. They are the ones who make it some. It is not that you will find it as a list of things beyond that. It is a kind of DNA of the system we would like educational institution stakeholders need to operate. Thank you very much, Manishi. I
Very
hope
much, sir.
I was able to make the point which I wanted to make during the
Yes, sir. And it was very
and
wonderful
questions are very
session. So it was very wonderful session, and right now, more than 50 people are
thank you.
watching this session, and it was very, very, very informative session because we are, we are into a crisis situation right now, and after when we will restart our business or job, the quality and customer services is the key so that we can survive in our business or in our job. So thank you so
Yes.
much, Professor Ahluwalia, for this wonderful session. And this is a very, very, very good learning today for me itself. Customer services and good quality product. You must need it in future uh, after post COVID. Thank you so much, Professor Ahluwalia, for for this wonderful session and your time. Thank you so much, sir.
Are there any questions, Manish?
So there is one question I see. So
In
I
the
am showing on the screen, and so this is the question. So Dr. Shashikant Gupta is
okay,
saying, sir,
yeah, Dr.
please suggest
Srikant
any link
Gupta.
where all theory subjects are explained practically.
Oh yes, there are a number of internet resources which are available, and I would like you not to focus on quality assurance. Please try to focus on quality enhancement, and you will find a lot of literature. Do you recall that during my lecture I mentioned two key persons who inspired me also to work? Let me tell you that I am a physics wala. I am not a management wala. So I had no notion of all these things when I took over, and I had to really discover these things on the way and implement these. The only thing which was happening as a result of my scientific background was this, that I was ready to learn. I was open to all the ideas which were coming. We were having very regular meetings of the internal quality assurance cell, and we in fact converted it from a data center to what you call a think tank of the university itself. So please Google quality enhancement in education or higher education. You will find a lot of literature and books on the internet about it.
And so there is one
I hope
question
I
for
have
Shrikant Gupta.
responded.
There is one question from Shrikant Gupta.
Okay.
What
mm,
are
People are
the
talking
best
about what are
learning
the best
and
learning and
assessment norms
assessment
by you?
norm yes, practiced by any university. I'll just point out this. Best learning and assessment norms as such, you will find when we are talking of defining our learning outcomes as per the Bloom's taxonomy, you will find most of the things get what you call settled. But then assessment is a very important part. And I think we must come into a new mode of creating what you call rubrics for assessment itself. We don't really indulge into that exercise presently. And rubrics are what? Rubrics are, you tell that when a particular student responds to a particular situation which has been asked in a particular question, then how you are going to really evaluate him or her step by step, that if she does this, this reflects what, if she does this, then this reflects what, and how you have to do the marking. These kinds of detailed marking schemes for each and every question which you ask is the central to learner-centric assessment itself. Yes, please.
Himanshu Monga is asking, may any one of the major role of IQAC be highlighted here? So what is the major role of IQAC, if you can suggest, if you can tell?
Himanshu ji, whole of my lecture was centered on this only. Major role is, you can divide it into two parts. One is, if you don't keep on acting as a data center and collating agency of the university. And not that, but if you are into academics, you would like to have some more mileage out of it in terms of converting it into a think tank. I think that is very crucial. So I hope I have responded to his question.
Thank you.
Yes, Manish.
Thank you so much, sir, for this one. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful session. And this is 1 hour long session, and thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. So
thank you.
I am now signing off, right?
Thank you so much.